this video, I'm building a deep, euphoric liquid drum and bass track from scratch, layering drums, bass, chords, and vocals. But the twist is, the vocals weren't recorded. They were generated using Synthesizer V Studio 2 Pro by Dreamtonics. Synthesizer V Studio 2 Pro gives you an incredible amount of control. You can shape the emotion and tone of the voice, tweak pitch and vibrato, even fine-tune how each word is enunciated, all within a seamless, intuitive interface. It's next-level vocal production, especially for producers working solo. If you want to learn more about or grab Synthesizer V Studio 2 Pro, or even grab a free trial, you can learn more down in the links below. Alright, let's dive in. Before we start creating some vocals with Synthesizer V2, let's just create the beat for the backbeat of the vocals. So here are the drums, and it's just a typical two-step drum pattern with some kick and snares. And I'm creating my track currently at 175 beats per minute. Now, the key to making drum and bass drums groovy is selecting an assortment of hi-hats and creating a rhythm out of it. So I have 3 hi-hats here, each playing a different pattern. Here's an open hi-hat here. And then here's a closed hi-hat here. And this one's playing faster. And then I have another open hi-hat here. Here's all 3 layers together. To give your drum and bass groove a bit more of a human feel, we often layer a break beat. This time, I'm layering a break made with acoustic drummer 2. And they have an assortment of MIDI grooves which you can pull right into your DAW, and then you can select your favorite drum kit, and then you can customize your drum kit to your liking. Now in Addictive Drums, you can also map each drum sound to an individual track on your mixer. So I've isolated the snare here, which allows me to add additional processing to just the snare. And actually, I have kickstart here to duck the snare because we already have a main snare with the one shot, so we don't need the attack of the snare. And then I added a bit of distortion and EQing on the Addictive Drums full track. So that'll add more groove on top of the one-shot drum sounds. And here's the entire drum track together. And then I grouped all the layers of the drums together, added some additional distortion with Decapitator, some bus compression with SL Cell compressor, and standard clip to glue it all together. Much more groovy, isn't it? Now let's add a quick liquid wobble bass line. We're starting with a sawtooth waveform, playing the low register of the bass. Let's increase unison mode and detune accordingly to give that wider Reese-like sound. And then we're going to add a top layer with another sawtooth on oscillator B. This time it's 1 octave and 7 semitones higher than the root oscillator. Notice the root is at -1. And then increase the unison mode. Add both oscillators together. And then apply a low pass filter. And then using the LFO, modulate the cutoff to create a wobble. Then you can also automate the drive as well for a little bit of warmth. Here are the notes for the bass line, and we're working in the key of D minor. Now copying the notes of the bass line into a pad or a piano instrument. We can use Ableton's scale feature to write a chord progression. So just go into scale, choose D minor, and then hit scale on the top left corner of your key roll. That'll hide any notes that do not belong to D minor, and simply stack the notes. So oftentimes in drum and bass, you're going to stack every other note of the scale and you'll get a minor triad or a triad chord. And then you can stack one more like that, and now you have a 7th chord. You can also invert the voicing of the chords a trick a lot of musicians do is to move the notes that they're closer together in the range of notes. So for example, you can move this D an octave up. You can move these two an octave up. You can move these three an octave up, and now they're like this. And sometimes you can double up the root note like that. Also, sometimes doubling the fifth note as well of the scale. Just adds a bit more depth to the chord progression. Here are all the sounds together. All right, now that we have the main beat, it's time to open up Synthesizer V2 to create a vocal track. Now, when I'm playing back the instrumental, oftentimes I'm listening for inspiration from melodies that might work with the track. And I had this particular melody that I was thinking of, so let's try to jot down the notes in Synthesizer V. And I'll show you the process on how to convert this into an actual vocal track. So here's the interface for Synthesizer V2, and it's opened up as a VST. However, you can also open up as a standalone. Now, you have a piano roll that opens up, and you can simply use the cursor or draw mode and start jotting down notes by clicking and dragging. You can also play the notes on the keys to look for the melody. So here's the melody I have, and by default, it just plays a tone like this. Now, under the arrangement section here is your track. And if you click on this drop down, you can choose from a selection of vocal databases that you have downloaded for Synthesizer V2. If it's not showing any vocal databases here, or if you want to expand, you can just click on their product manager here, and you can purchase and acquire additional voice databases. Let's just preview it off Hayden's voice. La, 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 la. Of course, it's just playing a la 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 by default. I'm going to show you how we're going to turn that into actual verses. Here's 𝗫𝗐𝗐. La, 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 la. And finally, here's 𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗦, which we'll be using. La, 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 la. All right, after experimenting with a bunch of notes, here is the final 8-bar phrase of the melody. And notice under each note, there's an audio-visual cue of the note. And if you move or change a note, it'll re-render that audio wave. And here's the full melody. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. So as I was writing this melody, I was reminded of some key words that might work with this track. So let's write it in, and I'll show you the process. So the words I had was, so tell me if I'm on your mind. So simply double click on the first note and type in the first word, tell, and then hit tab to go to the next word. And we're writing this syllable by syllable. So there we go. We have tell me if I'm on your mind, one word, each note. And let's play it back. Tell me if I'm on your mind. All right. So there it is so far. I have the first few words of my verse. Now, I'm not a lyricist, and you might have trouble filling out the rest of the words for your track. So what we can do is employ the power of AI to fill out these vocals. So let's ask ChatGPT to help us with the lyrics. Let's try a new song. The vibe is sensual and euphoric. First line, tell me if I'm on your mind. Follow the next line with the same cadence. Now this is important because if you want the melody to fit the notes that you have, and pretty much each verse in my melody has the same notes or syllables, so you had to tell it to create a lyric that has the same number of syllables, and then just hit enter. All right, here's the results it's given us, and there's a number of them. I'm liking the one here, drifting through another time. I'm gonna leave out the word been just to make it snappier. Next, let ChatGPT know that you've chosen drifting through another time, and ask them to write the next line. And then it's given me these results for the third line. I think we're gonna choose echoing between the lines. So we're gonna copy this, let them know. and then write the final line. And with the final line, one of the results it gave us previously actually worked. This one, moving past the edge of time. So we're going to use this. All right, so here are the final lyrics. Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time, echoing between the lines, moving past the edge of time. So let's input this into Synthesizer V. All right, back to Synth V. Let's type in the first word with this drifting. Now, since drifting has 2 syllables, we're going to connect the first and second note with the first word. So to connect the second note to drifting, just hit the plus sign and it'll connect the second syllable of drifting to the second note. Let's finish the sentence. Through another. So another is also 3 syllables. So we're going to use the plus sign in the next 2 syllables here. And then time. Let's just listen to what we have so far.
Tell me if I'm on your mind. Drifting through another timeline.
All right, now we have an issue here. We have an extra note here following time, and time is just 1 syllable. So what you can do is double click on this last one. Instead of using the plus sign, use the minus sign, and this will lengthen the word time to follow 2 notes. So let's listen back.
Drifting through another time.
All right, and that's sounding good. Let's enter the rest of the words. So echoing, which is 3 syllables. So we need 2 connection notes between. So we need another connection note and the lines. All right, and then finally the last line, moving past the edge of time. So it's moving, connection notes, past the edge of time. And there we go. Let's listen back.
Tell me if I'm on your mind. Drifting through another time, echoing between the lines, moving past the edge of time.
Now, some of the words may need tweaking. For example, this word line sounds short, so you may want to lengthen it over here. And then I'll show you some additional tricks on how to edit the vocal. All right, here's the really fun part of Synthesizer V2 is that you have more control on how the words are pronounced and enunciated, which is important if you want to write vocal tracks to fit the vibe of your melody and track. So on the bottom here, we have this panel called phoneme timing. And if you notice under this phoneme timing panel, it's broken down the words by its individual sounds. So for example, the word drifting here has the dr, ting, right? So if you hover between the words and you'll get this line, you can change the timing of the vowels and syllables. So let's change this make it shorter.
Through another time.
So now you have more of a pronunciation on there from another. You also get a bit more control in the volume and amplitude of each syllable if you click and drag this level graph here.
Drifting through another time.
You notice how the word is pronounced.
Drifting through another time.
Let's adjust the word time. Maybe move the time like that. Maybe increase the M.
Drifting through another time.
Now that does sound a bit odd, so you have to experiment to see what sounds natural, right? Let's increase the
Drifting through another time.
That sounds interesting. Now, if you click on this bottom plus sign here, you'll get an additional panel with more parameters to change how the words are pronounced. If you click on here, there's the pitch deviation. If you click on here, you also get additional parameters. A new one they have is the mouth opening, so you can keep the mouth wide open for certain words. And you'll see a graph for the opening, and you can use the panel here to click and drag and affect how the words are opening in the mouth.
Drifting through another time.
Notice how here it almost sounds like a because that time has the mouth open while the word is pronounced. Let's try the extreme.
Drifting through another time.
Interesting. Let's play some additional parameters. Let's try adding a vibrato, which is kind of a wobble to the way the voice is enunciated.
Drifting through another time.
Notice the voice wobbling at the end. You can also play with this parameter, which is tone shift. See what this does.
Drifting through another time.
So a lot of different parameters to shape how your voice is enunciated. In addition, if you click on the side panel here, there are additional options. Here's the voice panel options. You can increase the boldness of the voice. Now, depending on the voice database that you've selected, it will have a number of different parameters to affect the voice. Let's increase the boldness.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Let's increase it to maximum.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
It's a lot bolder. Let's bring it down a bit.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Let's bring the softness all the way down. So now it's
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
a lot more bolder. Increase the softness.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
So you want a more lighter voice, you can play with the softness. Let's bring it of a soul all the way down.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
All the way up.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
So it sounds a little more present with the soulful. What happens if we increase steadiness?
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Okay, the voice is a lot more present with steadiness. Let's bring it back down. And then warmth.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Very cool. And then scrolling down, additional parameters if you want more loudness.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Tension.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Okay, that's pretty extreme. Let's bring it down this way.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
I like that. It's kind of soft and fluttery. Breathiness.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
That's cool. So if you want a breathy vocal, increase the gender. What will that do?
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Okay, so you got that haunting, deep house vocal, burial style this
Tell
way.
me if I'm on your mind.
It's more of a chipmunk. What about tone shift?
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Okay, and tone shift down.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
All right, so a lot of cool parameters to adjust the voice. All right, and into the editor, there's this button here which you can click. It allows you to adjust the vocal pitching of each word. If you click on it, you can double click on the pitch line across the words. For example, this word on here, you can double click and you adjust how the pitch pitches down, right? We can make it more steep like this,
Tell me if I'm on your
right? Or make it more of a constant note,
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
which sounds nice. You might want to, for example, add one here where me slopes down,
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
right? Or if the word on, maybe like this.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
All right. So the smart controls adjust the pitch a little more naturally. You can also use this pencil icon and manually adjust the notes like that.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Now that sounds a bit more out of tune because now you're randomly drawing the notes, where the smart pitch controls adjusts it accordingly and keeps things sounding more natural and in key. Another cool thing is if you click on this panel here for the notes panel, you can select individual words or multiple words and adjust using this expression panel here how that word is expressed. So a little more vibrant.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Now the changes are a little more subtle.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
This allows for minute nuances in the vocals, especially if you have a vocal that may be repeating or a verse that is repeating. You might not want it to sound like a robotic copy. So you can adjust different words to sound a bit different using this panel.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Or we can take the entire selection of this verse. Now under here, AI retakes, what this does is it will re-render the entire take of this voice. So remember what we said here is that each word is represented by a waveform audio here, and these words are rendered when it's played. And it will always sound the same when you play it, but you can click and re-render it for different takes. Right? So you can, for example, let's click on all and retake the entire section.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Again.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
You notice how it sounds different, this take two? And what you can do is you can also export this in Ableton as different audio stems and then layer it together, and you have an ensemble or almost like a backup effect where you have double ups of vocals. And if you click on this drop down, you can go back to the various takes you have. We can go back to our default take.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Which is very helpful, especially if you want your vocal to sound more thick. You can take various takes, bounce it to audio. You can put one in the center, one on the left and right. So here I bounced all three takes to audio. I put the main one in the center. We have one on the left and right. Let's check it all in total.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
So it sounds a lot more vibrant and more in depth when you layer the vocals together, especially because they're completely different takes. Just like as if you were recording a live singer, every take would be subtly different. Now in this third take, I didn't like how the word mine was pronounced.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
So let's take just this one word and retake it.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
That sounds a little bit better. Perhaps we have to adjust the phonemes here as well. It didn't sound correct with the N so long.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
Yeah, that sounds a bit closer. Or we can take that and retake only a particular parameter. So we have individual parameters, so timing, pitch. So we like the pitch and the timbre, but maybe it was the timing of how each phoneme was pronounced. So we can click on timing and adjust that a little.
Tell me if I'm on your mind.
And that sounds all right. So you can play with this, a lot of different control with your voice and lots of fun. Here's a final trick I learned that you can play with. You can add additional vocal tracks. So not only can you have just Natalie, you can add an additional track and choose a voice. Now you can use Natalie twice, or you can use one of the other voices. Create a new track here. They call it a group. We go back to original voice. We can select all the notes, copy, and go back here and paste it. And then we can play it together. So let's try with Hayden too. And let's hear it in solo first.
Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time.
And then let's hear it together with Natalie.
Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time.
So that sounds really cool. What you can actually do is create harmonies. So instead of playing the same notes, we can select all the notes of Hayden. Now, a simple way to write a harmony, it may not always sound right, but it sometimes works, is just to play a perfect fifth up, which is 7 notes above. So moving this, taking all the notes and just we have C on the first note, just move it to G, which is up here. And we have this for Hayden.
Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time.
And then we can hear it together.
I'm echoing between the lines, moving past the edge of time.
And that sounds all right. You may want to adjust the level of Hayden, bring it down a number of dBs because it is more of a backup vocal.
Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time.
You can even maybe try it with Natalie's voice as well.
Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time.
That sounds a little more in sync because it's the same voice. Another thing you can do, instead of shifting the vocal up, you can move it down, right? So instead of G4, bring it down to G3, right? Let's hear how that sounds.
Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time, echoing between.
So that also works. I kind of like it up at G4, so let's just keep it that way. Now the vocals do sound a bit raw, so you may want to add some processing. I'm using Nectar 2 to add some EQing and compression, some saturation from Saturn, some echo delay and reverb, and this is how the vocal sounds after.
Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time, echoing between the lines, moving past the edge of time.
Now just one more tweak on the vocal. I'm going back to the main Natalie track. I've selected all the notes and moved it up to octave range of C5. I just want a more high-pitched kind of euphoric rave track vocal. I've also increased the softness all the way up and reduced the boldness, and this is how it sounds.
Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time, echoing between the lines, moving past the edge of time.
I kind of like that almost angelic sounding voice with the vocals an octave higher and bringing back the harmony, which is an octave lower. We hear how that sounds.
Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time.
Yeah, it sounds really good. Almost sounds like that vocal angelic group. I think they call it Celtic Angels or something. Really like that vibe. And I think this is great for the beginnings of our vocal track. All right, now that we have the vocals and the beat, let's hear the final result.
Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time, echoing between the lines, moving past the edge of time. Tell me if I'm on your mind, drifting through another time, echoing between the lines, moving past the edge of time.
Oh yeah, we have the start of a wicked, euphoric, liquid drum and bass track. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed watching me create a liquid drum and bass track with the help of Synthesizer V Studio 2 Pro on the vocals. As you can see, a lot of fun and control using this tool to shape your vocals and tweak it down to perfection for your track. If you want to learn more about Synthesizer V Studio 2 Pro or even try a free trial, you can learn more down in the links below. My name is 𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗧𝗢𝗪, music producer of over 25 years. If you want to learn more about music production and dance music, then like this video and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to support this channel directly, check out deviantaudio.com for sample packs, preset packs, and Ableton kits to help you along your journey. My Vaults sample pack just came out. It contains over 950 megabytes of legacy samples from 20 years ago from my personal archives, from signature breaks and bass sounds recorded from my Axis Virus 2. You can learn more down in the links below. To see me create drum and bass classics, check this playlist up here. To learn more about breakbeat manipulation, check this playlist up here. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay creative and peace out.